Okay, welcome viewers, episode 2, when privacy stopped feeling private. When episode 2, when one female boundary was given two governors. When one female boundary was given two governors. Every boundary eventually answers to a governor. Every protected category eventually answers to an authority. Every rule eventually reveals who's in charge. For generations, female boundaries answered a relatively simple question. Why does this boundary exist? The answer was equally simple. Because biological sex mattered. Then something unprecedented occurred. The female boundary acquired a second governor. Not a second visitor, not a second observer, not a second authority. A second governor. And once that happened, the collision became inevitable. The defining sequence of the 2013 framework was not the creation of conflict. The defining consequence was the creation of conditions that would eventually generate conflict. A female boundary that previously answered to biological governance now answered to biological governance and identity governance. And the category remained. The purpose remained, the signs remained, the governors multiplied. And once a boundary carries two competing authorities, the boundary itself becomes unstable. A female refuge exists because female biology matters. A female prison exists because female biology matters. A female change room exists because female biology matters. A female recovery environment exists because female biology matters. And the protection was never random. The protection emerged because biological realities created the need for protection. And that relationship matters because purpose determines governance. The moment governance becomes divided, the purpose begins coming under pressure. And this is where the catastrophe begins. Not at the door, not in the courtroom, not in the media. Inside the architecture itself. The female boundary is now asked to recognise two competing claims of authority. Biology says the boundary exists because biological sex created the need for protection. Identity says the boundary exists within a framework that also recognises identity-based protections. Now both governors approach the same doorway, the same category, the same privacy structure, the same recovery environment, the same protection. The collision becomes unavoidable. And this is where the psychological consequence begins emerging. The women no longer experience a singular authority governing the space. The category feels occupied. The protection feels conditional. The boundary begins requiring continual interpretation. And the woman begins asking questions she never previously needed to ask. Who decides? Who governs? Who defines membership? Who will defend the boundary? And the nervous system notices the instability immediately. Hypervigilance begins, monitoring begins, boundary sensitivity begins, trust begins weakening. The woman gradually becomes responsible for carrying certainty that the system once provided automatically. That transfer is profound because systems are supposed to carry protections. Human beings are not supposed to carry them alone. My final consequential statement, episode 2. The defining event was not the addition of new protection. The defining event was the moment one female boundary acquired two authorities, biological and identical. From that moment forward, the collision became structural. And it wasn't just going to be one collision, it was going to be multiple collisions until something got changed. Biology remained, identity entered, the category became shared, and once governance entered the female boundary, the burden of uncertainty began migrating from the system into the woman herself. And that migration continues today. And I'll see you in episode 3, lesson number 3.